Hello YouTube, this is Dazzathecameraman. Today is Friday, August 25th, 2017, and this is the follow-up Hangout. As promised, I had hoped to have Mr. Curious Unknown join me for a friendly and respectful Hangout. Unfortunately, I haven't heard anything back from Mr. Curious Unknown. Let me just check my emails again, and no, there's nothing new on my Dazzathecameraman email notifications. I'm just going to check my junk email as well in case it's gone to the spam folder. No, I'm not seeing anything there as well. So it's disappointing but not really surprising that Mr. Curious Unknown has decided not to join me for the Hangout. As I said, I had hoped to have a friendly discussion with him and discuss what we're seeing in his videos and possibly what we could do to actually check his videos and see if what we're seeing in his videos are actually real objects or lens flares, internal lens reflections, etc. Can you just let me know in the chat if you're hearing me, because I'm not seeing anything on the live preview at the moment. Okay, I'm not sure if I'm looking at the wrong preview or... Okay, thank you. Thank you, Subza. I see what's happening, I think. Anyway, as I say, I've heard nothing back from Mr. Curious Unknown, but let me just share my screen in, and I'm trying to join on my other laptop, which means I can screen share. I see what's going on here. Okay, I'm going to bring the chat up on the second window there. And problem is with the chat and Hangouts, of course, we always lose the chat once the Hangout has finished. So I'll bring that up in the second window, and hopefully you'll be able to see that. We can keep track of what's happening in the chat there. So hopefully you've been able to check out my last two videos where I filmed the sun this morning using my phone camera. In the first video I filmed, there was no sign of any Nibiru or Planet X or anything like that next to the sun, no second sun. And in the second video I used a welding lens. And when I used the welding lens over my phone camera, then we could clearly see what appeared to be a second object next to the sun. And then I did the finger test. And clearly it was an internal lens reflection instead of a real object. It's a very simple test that you can do. Anyone can do if they think that they're filming an object next to the sun. Extend your finger out in front of you, block out the sun with your finger and see if the secondary object suddenly disappears. The second part of the test is to put your finger over the secondary object. Now you should be able to block it out with your finger, but if you find that the secondary object is then superimposed over your finger, then obviously it is not a real object. Can anyone see the chat in the window? Because my live preview is not showing me anything, so I'm not sure what you're seeing at this stage. I might just refresh this page, I think, and see if that helps. Okay, that's it. I can see what's going on now. So it's, as I said in my earlier Hangouts, it's rather disappointing that Mr. Curious Unknown is using Nibiru Planet X and filming the sun and claiming that he's filming blue planets and so on, using that as his platform I have no problem whatsoever with Mr. Curious Unknown preaching the gospel, or as I said, sharing his testimony, doing Bible readings, or whatever he wants to do. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But I do have a problem with people trying to use Nibiru Planet X, which doesn't exist. There is no such object as Nibiru Planet X within our solar system. Yes, there are brown dwarfs a long, long way away. The nearest brown dwarf is 6.5 light years away, which is actually over 2 light years further away than the nearest star to our sun. If there was such an object within our solar system, it would be clearly visible, and it would certainly be visible to all of the independent amateur astronomers all around the world. There are thousands, many, many thousands of independent amateur astronomers all around the world. And yes, we can use infrared as well. But there's nothing magical about a brown dwarf that would prevent it from being seen if it was within our solar system. It would show up just like any other planet, just like Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn are clearly visible in our night sky. We can also see Uranus and Neptune using visible light through optical telescopes. You don't need to image them in infrared. I have imaged Pluto through a 14-inch telescope, just an ordinary optical light. Ordinary visible light, I need to use infrared to do that. So these videos of Nibiru Planet X next to the sun are all the same. You know, they're internal lens reflections and other lens flares. Sometimes they are sunlit clouds. You get the sun shining on clouds. Often in these videos we see that there's a lot of broken cloud. It seems that these people often don't like filming the sun when it's a clear sky. And to be fair, you know, it's not always possible to film a clear sky. I had a lovely clear blue sky day yesterday, and it was fairly clear this morning. As you saw in my first video, there were a few clouds around, but at the moment it's quite overcast now, and this is only like 2 hours later. Now I'm hoping to be down at the observatory later, so let's hope for clear skies later on. I want to be able to see the moon and Jupiter and Saturn later on. So Mr. Curious Unknown, if you're listening, you're welcome to join the chat. If you feel you want to join the Hangout, please let me know in the chat, and we'll try and get the link to you so that you can join in. As I have said all along, I promise to be polite and respectful. I'm hoping for a friendly discussion with you so that we can look at your videos, discuss what we're seeing, see if we can find some common ground and work together, and maybe equip you to be able to test these things for yourself if you're not sure how to go about it. As I've already mentioned before, you did a very good job when you were filming your porch light as a sort of a self-test, if you like, of what you're actually seeing. But of course you deleted that video, which is a real shame. It's very disappointing that you deleted that video, because that video proved that you're actually filming internal lens reflections. We could see the bright porch light, and we could see a secondary reflection. And when you moved your camera around, that secondary reflection stayed in the same place relative to the real porch light. If you had extended your finger out in front of the camera, you would have found that that secondary reflection was blocked out when you blocked the real light, and it would have been superimposed over your finger if you tried to put your finger over the top of it. Yes, good question. Where is he? Maybe he's out filming the sun again. I don't know. Let me go to his channel and I'll have a look and just see if he's live. And well, it doesn't look like he's live at the moment, but I'll just drag his page over there so we can all see it. So here are his latest videos, and you can see his second to last video says Mr. Curious Unknown is officially a fraud. That's the video that I responded to last night in audio only. It seems that he was maybe feeling a little bit sorry for himself, and I addressed the questions that he raised in that video, so you can check that out if you haven't seen it. And this latest video, my best lens flare yet. Now, I watched that one earlier. I didn't see any evidence of a lens flare or secondary reflection like we've been seeing in his earlier videos. Unless I missed it, I didn't see him pointing out something and claiming it to be Nibiru, Planet X, or a second sun, or a blue planet, or whatever. He really, well, he made no comment on that one. There was no narration or anything like that, but there was the foreboding music, the dramatic music with the video, so I don't know what that was all about. But yeah, it seems he's not live at the moment. Let's just go to his home page. No, he's not live. So anyway, hopefully he might come and join us. So if you'd like to join us, Mr. Curious Unknown, the invitation is still there for you. You're welcome to come and join me for a friendly discussion. I promise not to bite. And let's see if we can work out some common ground here. So let's have a look at the chat, because it looks like maybe Mr. Curious Unknown isn't going to join us. So if you've got any questions or things that you want to bring up, maybe I can respond. I won't make this a long hangout. I'm actually pretty exhausted after yesterday, to be honest. I went and had a nap before this hangout because I was actually feeling physically sick. I really overdid it yesterday with exhaustion, when I should have been napping, as I often have to do throughout the day. But I pushed myself along, and I made these, well, I did 4 hangouts yesterday. It was quite a lot to do, and I guess I'm paying the price for it now. So after this, I'll go and have another nap. I've got some recharging to do. Yes, I was a very busy man yesterday, Mrs. RD, and it takes its toll. It really does. But anyway, I enjoy what I do, and you know, I know that people out there appreciate what I'm doing, and there is a need for it, because there are a lot of vulnerable people out there who see these videos claiming that there is something next to our sun, or that there's a brown dwarf passing through our solar system, and some people get quite anxious about that, and some people actually are suicidal when they see things like that. And I and others have had to talk people down from actually committing suicide or harming themselves because of videos like this. I'm sure that Mr. Curious Unknown wouldn't want that sort of thing on his conscience. I hope not. Flat Earth Math says, you know what is so annoying about Dazzathecameraman? He's so pushy with the facts and insists that the truth receive a fair hearing. Insists, how rude. Yeah, I guess maybe I do. You know, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story, as they say. Another favorite saying is, a lie gets halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to put its pants on. That's so true. You know, when we see all these viral stories and fake news doing the rounds on Facebook and the internet and elsewhere. Question for Dazza, says Ego City Gaming. Has there ever been a conspiracy theory or something out of the ordinary, cryptozoology maybe, that has piqued your interest? Well, certainly there are conspiracies. One of the earliest conspiracies that I remember from my, well, it was probably before my childhood, but I remember that they were still talking about it, was the Watergate scandal, and what happened with the conspiracy involving old Tricky Dicky Richard Nixon and all of that. Also, I believe that the invasion of Iraq was basically a conspiracy. Saddam Hussein did not have weapons of mass destruction, as was claimed, but he had lots of oil, didn't he? And of course, you know, war is big business. There's always money for war. And you know, they went into Iraq. They bombed it into yesterday. And then there were all the contracts for rebuilding Iraq. So yeah, absolutely, I do believe in conspiracies. There's a lot of conspiracies that do the round, of course, that I don't believe in, but it doesn't mean to say that I don't believe in all conspiracies. Dazza, what is the best evidence that the Earth is round out of nothing more than a desire to learn? Okay, well, there's actually lots of very good evidence that the Earth is round, including the round shadow that we see cast on the moon during a lunar eclipse. Also the fact that there are two, not just one, but 2 points of rotation of the stars. Now, the flat Earth believers say that the sky is a dome or a firmament that rotates above the flat Earth, and we've got Polaris right at the center, the northern pole star. And you've got all of those stars, and they rotate counterclockwise around that point of rotation in at the northern celestial pole. Well, the problem is that there's actually a second point of rotation, and we see it down here in the southern hemisphere. Every night I can see my southern stars, the stars in the southern half of my sky, rotating around a second point of rotation which should not exist according to the flat Earth model. And my stars rotate around that second point clockwise in the opposite direction of rotation to the stars that rotate around Polaris. So that's very good evidence, because that cannot work on the flat Earth model, but it absolutely works on the spherical Earth model. And then there's the fact, of course, that, you know, good old Soundly with his P900 camera filming the bridge over Lake Pontchartrain and the power pylon towers clearly curve across the lake. Now, normally when you look across a water body, you've got no point of reference really to actually see the curvature. But when you've got power pylons or a perfectly straight bridge, you've actually got a reference point. And we can see clearly in Soundly's videos those power pylon towers and the Lake Pontchartrain bridge curving over the horizon. It's undisputable. I mean, yeah, sure, people dispute it, but, you know, you're grabbing at straws. I remember Anthony Riley had to invent something to explain it. He came up with electrical soup. He blamed the electromagnetic fields from the power pylons creating some sort of electrical soup causing the apparent curvature of the Earth. I mean, really? But anyway, I see, yes, Riley did shut down his channel. He posted a couple of videos saying, this is going to be my final video, he said. And then after he posted his final video, he said, I lied, it wasn't my final video, and he posted another final video. But anyway, yes, he has closed down his channel. He'll be lurking. He will be lurking anonymously. He will set up another channel, no doubt, and it'll be text only. But there'll be little clues that it's him. But yeah, you know, the images that have come back from the total solar eclipse, where when the moon was completely in front of the sun, blocking out the sun, we had earth shine. You know, just like we're seeing around about this time. If you go out and look at the moon tonight, you'll see that there's earth shine lighting up the dark part of the moon. And so you see that bright, thin crescent of the moon, but then you can also see the dark part, which is sort of dimly illuminated. And that is reflected earth shine. So in other words, the sun is shining on the earth, and remember that the earth has got a lot of bright white clouds on it, so they're very reflective. So the earth reflects the sunlight. That sunlight bounces off the earth and shines up on the moon, and it dimly illuminates the dark part of the moon that's not in direct sunlight. And then that light is reflected back to us again on Earth, and we can see the dark part of the moon. Now remember that there is no dark side of the moon, as you know, the old Pink Floyd album, and people talk about the dark side of the moon, because the moon at new moon, the far side of the moon as seen from the Earth is illuminated, and at full moon the near side of the moon as seen from the Earth is illuminated. So throughout the lunar month, the whole moon actually sees sunlight. So there is no dark side of the moon, but there is a far side of the moon. We always have the same face of the moon facing towards the Earth, because the moon is tidally locked with the Earth. Well, it's a shame that Mr. Curious Unknown has not joined us, not even in the chat. I'm sure he's aware that this Hangout was happening, because I did give notice about it. And he's not blocked, unlike me on his channel. I'm blocked from commenting, but he's welcome to come over here and comment. So, good night, NPXWN. Sleep well. Thank you for joining us. And thank you, Jordan. Appreciate your comment. Yep. And yeah, it's a shame, but it's not a surprise, as I said earlier. I hope that he does accept my invitation to join me at some stage. And I sound like a broken record, but I'll say it again. I promise to be polite and respectful, as always. If you would like to join the Hangout, Mr. Curious Unknown, I will be a gentleman, I will be polite, I will be fair. You know, I'll ask some questions, but I'll be fair in doing that. No, I haven't seen your solar images yet, Itch. I'll have to find out how to pronounce your name correctly at some stage. I don't want to butcher it, so I'll just call you Itch if you don't mind. Or maybe you can give me a sort of English phonetic pronunciation. That would be helpful for everyone. I've got a lot to catch up on, actually. As I was saying earlier, a lot of very good images come back from the solar eclipse, fantastic images, and you can clearly see it's the moon, and that's what I was touching on before. We had that earth shine illuminating the moon, and you could actually see the features of the moon. You could see the dark maria, or that's the Latin term for seas. Of course, there are no seas on the moon, but that's what they call them. It was clearly the moon. It wasn't Rahu, or whatever they want to, whatever the flat Earth believers want to call it. They say that solar eclipses are not caused by the moon. The funny thing is that solar eclipses always occur at new moon, and lunar eclipses always occur at full moon. Isn't that strange? Isn't it strange that solar eclipses only occur at new moon and never any other time of the lunar month? Isn't that strange? Is that some sort of weird coincidence, or what? Or maybe solar eclipses are caused by the moon. No, none of the solar eclipse was visible for us here in New Zealand, unfortunately. I did see a very good solar eclipse back in 2012, and I think I've got videos of that on my channel, if I remember correctly. It was about 87% eclipsed here from Tauranga, New Zealand, as I recall. So yeah, that was pretty neat. I've never seen a full solar eclipse or a total solar eclipse. That would be quite neat to see. And I noticed that there were no brown dwarfs next to the sun when the sun was totally eclipsed. Didn't see anything strange. The other good thing that came out of all of these millions of people filming the solar eclipse with their mobile phone cameras and so on, is that when the sun was partially eclipsed before we hit total eclipse, we could see that the sun looked like a crescent sun, And when you've got people filming this with their iPhone cameras and so on, that crescent sun also produced a secondary lens reflection like we see in the Nibiru Planet X videos. But of course, it was a crescent-shaped reflection. So if you check out some of those videos and photos, you will see lots of crescent-shaped secondary reflections next to the sun. And this just goes to prove that that's what we're seeing. We're seeing secondary reflections. Normally those reflections are not crescent-shaped. They're round because the sun is round when we normally film it. But it was a great opportunity to see crescent-shaped secondary reflections. Has anyone heard from Mr. Curious Unknown about whether he is actually interested in joining a Hangout or not? I don't see Groot in the chat at the moment. I know that Groot has some contact with Mr. Curious Unknown, and I think he was going to try and encourage him to join the Hangout. So I haven't heard back. I don't know what the result was of that, if anything. So I think I might do some regular updates, you know, just filming the sun every few days when I've got a nice clear day, and I'll use the welding lenses as a filter to filter out the glare, and you know, we can have a look at the secondary reflection Nibiru Planet X and have a bit of fun with that. I'll try using just a clear piece of glass so that there's no filtering effect as well. Something I've been meaning to try. I've got a fairly new phone. It's a Huawei, if that's how you pronounce it, Huawei P8 Lite. And with the phone, with my older phone, when I tried filming the sun with it, even with a welding lens, I could never get that secondary reflection. But I certainly can do that now with my new P8 Lite, so that's quite good. I'm having a lot of fun with that. The other thing I want to learn how to do, I've been looking into it and I just can't figure it out, is actually how to live stream to YouTube from my phone. I've been Googling that and trying to figure it out, and I've looked at Google Play Store and all of that. So if anyone can tell me what I need to do, please get in contact with me, and I'll look into setting that up so I can actually film the sun live like Mr. Curious Unknown has been doing. And, you know, so while he's filming the sun live, I can be filming the sun live as well. That's pretty neat too, isn't it? That he's over in the US, I'm guessing, based on his sunset time, that he's probably over near the west coast of the United States. And here I am in New Zealand, almost on the other side of the world, and I can see the sun at the same time that he's filming it. So, you know, it provides some very good opportunities for doing some real-time experiments filming live using the Google Hangouts and comparing what we see. So, oh, here he is. Here's I Am Groot. Welcome to the chat. Groot, have you heard from Mr. Curious Unknown? Can you tell us if he is interested in joining the Hangout at all? As I said, I'm definitely going to be very polite and respectful. I'm not going to be rude and nasty to him or anything like that. It would be nice to have him join the Hangout and have a friendly discussion. Just having a sip of water there. Right, so Groot hasn't heard from Mr. Curious Unknown. I'm just going to check his channel again and see if he's broadcasting, because he often does about this time. Doesn't look like it. I guess I've taken the wind out of his sails somewhat, which is not really surprising. But like I said earlier, I have no problem with him preaching the gospel, sharing his testimony, giving Bible readings or whatever. Please, Mr. Curious Unknown, just don't mix it with Nibiru Planet X, because it is nonsense. And it is deceiving people when you combine those two things, because you're combining deceit with truth, okay, or what some people will arguably say is truth, right? It's just a shame to see you using Nibiru Planet X as a platform to preach the gospel message. And maybe you're very sincere in what you believe that you were filming, but there's no excuse when you've got an opportunity to actually test what you're filming to continue with what you're doing. There are very simple tests that you can do, as I've already explained, like a stuck record, the finger test. You can try other things such as rotating your camera 360 degrees while you're filming. There is your porch light video, which has already proven to you that you were seeing secondary reflections. So there really is no excuse for you to be filming the sun and claiming that there is a blue planet next to the sun, or a dark planet, or all this other stuff. But, you know, as I say, if you want to preach the gospel or whatever, do Bible readings, I've got no problem with that. You know, more power to you, dude, if that's what you want to do. I really don't have an issue with that. Yep. So back to the chat. Has anybody else got any questions that you'd like me to respond to? We're just coming up 30 minutes since I started now, so I try not to make my Hangouts too long if possible, because I know when confronted by a long video afterwards, people, you know, I don't want to watch long videos, so I try and keep them short whenever possible. So Joseph Burbo, well, we have real captured planet or something tonight. Oh, well, maybe you'll have to send me the link so I can take a look. But, you know, every video that I ever see is a secondary lens reflection, or a sunlit contrail, or an illuminated cloud, or Venus, or Jupiter, or a sundog, or whatever. You know, I've never ever seen any proof, any actual proof of Nibiru Planet X. And as I say, if there was such an object within our solar system, then astronomers all over the world would be all over it. So Mr. Joseph Burbo says it's on his channel, so I'll have to go and check that out later and take a look. If I don't follow up Joseph Burbo, please chase me up about it. Best way to do that is to send me a private message or an email so I don't miss your comment. The YouTube comment system is an absolute mess at the moment. I used to get email notifications as soon as somebody commented, and I'm finding now that not only the email notifications, but the actual YouTube notifications within the browser are often not coming through. If at all, they're not coming through for hours. Okay, so my email address, Joseph, is Dazzathecameraman@outlook.com. You can find it on the About tab of my channel if you need to look it up. Dick Holman, you say Odd Curious doesn't have a discussion page. You mean on his YouTube channel? If you find a YouTube channel that doesn't display the tabs, what you can do is just do what you've done there in your comment and put /discussion, and the discussion tab will appear, otherwise it's hidden. You can also do that with the About tab. If the About tab is not visible and you want to go and check to find when a YouTube channel was set up, if you can't see the tab, just put /about and you'll be able to see the About tab. Yeah. Joseph, I also recommend, if you're willing, come and talk to me on Skype, either on Skype or a private Hangout. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. I need some more water. The reason I like to use Skype, and you don't need to go on camera, by the way, just talk. But the reason I like to use Skype is that you can share your screen with me, or I can share my screen with you. And that means that we can look at whatever we're discussing together real time. And Oh, good night, John Michelson. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, it just makes it a whole lot easier to actually get to the bottom of what we're looking at. And I encourage people to do that. If you want me to look at something, the best way is for us to talk on Skype or a private discussion. So, yep, Joseph is saying, okay, sounds like a plan, so that's really good. So get in contact with me and we'll connect on Skype and we'll take a look at your videos and see what we can come up with. How's that? Kids are mean, they sure are sometimes. My grandson is coming to stay this weekend. Anything cool in the sky to show him in Midwest North America? Well, of course, I've got a different sky. I'm looking more south than the north, but we see the same planets and the sun and the moon and so on. So at the moment, the moon is in the sky. I don't know if you've got a small telescope or a pair of binoculars or a good camera or whatever, but the craters of the moon are always good to look at. Jupiter and Saturn are still in the sky. Jupiter is getting lower. It's heading closer towards the sun from our perspective. But Saturn is very high at the moment, and it's good for viewing at the moment as well. So thank you, Joseph. Yep. We'll be in contact. Yes, I'm quite jealous of those people across middle of the US who saw that fantastic total solar eclipse. That would really have been something to see. The next total solar eclipse here in New Zealand is actually going to be visible from down the bottom of the South Island, and I'm up here in the North Island. It's quite a distance away. I would have to take a flight down to Christchurch and travel south. I've got family down in Christchurch in the South Island. That reminds me, Scott Cohn talking about me living with my mother. I live in my mother's basement, apparently. My mother lives hundreds of miles away in Christchurch. She lives in a retirement village. So there we go. Hiya, Mum. Yep. Yeah, I'm hoping to have a good view of Saturn tonight as well. I'll be at the observatory later on and hoping for clear skies. The weather forecast is supposed to be clear. It's overcast at the moment, so hopefully it'll clear up later on. It's just gone 12:13 p.m. here on Friday afternoon, so we've got a few hours to go. Hopefully the cloud will burn off. Thank you, Joseph. And Jared says, I was there, Dazza, with Sean Hufford, Reds, Pew Review, Sound Lee, Lama Rocket Man, Hannah Zuby, and other family members. Yeah, it would have been awesome. Did you get some good pictures, Jared? And I hope you had the opportunity, as well as if you were taking photos, as well as concentrating on the camera, to actually look with your eyes, because I know from past events it's often easy to get caught up in what you're doing with the camera and so on, and actually lose the opportunity to just actually focus with your eyes and enjoy what you're seeing. Yes, Groot, I have seen the video of the International Space Station crossing during the solar eclipse. I've seen that video. It's very good. And yeah, I filmed a couple of transits of the International Space Station crossing the sun myself. They're on my YouTube channel. If you just search for International Space Station or ISS on my channel, you'll be able to find those. I filmed... Well, I've actually filmed more than twice, but one of my videos didn't work out because, unfortunately, I was adjusting the camera and I wasn't checking my timing very well. And unfortunately, as I was adjusting the camera, the International Space Station zipped across. And, you know, when you zoomed up on the sun or the moon or anything, any movement of the camera really moves the image around, and it just spoilt the video. So that was a shame. But I'm also hoping to film a transit of the moon at some stage. That would be really neat. Now, the moon is challenging, of course, because it's not always full moon. It's not always a crescent. You've got the full range of phases, and you just don't know what sort of phase of the moon it's going to be in when the space station crosses in front of it. And I'd quite like to see a transit at first quarter. So that's when it looks like half a moon in the sky. So you've got half of the moon illuminated and half of it in shadow. So you'd be able to see the International Space Station like we normally see it in the sky. Yes, that's with the P900. Oh, no, I actually filmed it. I've used a P900 camera since, but the videos that I filmed previously were with a Canon 60DA and through a Meade 8-inch telescope. But yeah, I'm planning to film with my P900. I've got a beta solar filter for it, so I'll be doing that. But yeah, getting back to what I was saying. So with the moon at first quarter, with the space station crossing it, you would see the International Space Station like we normally see it in the sky. So it looks like a bright star. And then as it crossed into the other half of the moon, which is illuminated, we would actually see a silhouette. So you'd have the contrast between the two. I think that would be pretty neat. But of course, seeing it at full moon is pretty good as well, because then you've got the full width of the moon for seeing the silhouette of the International Space Station. Let me just scroll up. Jared replied to my questions. I saw something earlier. Yeah, Jared said it was amazing and our combined footage was outstanding. Now, I know you can see the chat in the window there because I've got it up as well. I was flying the drone for a 360 elevated view during totality, but still had to see it with my own eyes. It was beyond words. Yes, I bet it was, especially when you could see that corona around the disk of the moon, which of course we don't see except for during a total solar eclipse. And the photos and videos that I've seen, you can see the magnetic field lines of the sun in the corona, and it's just fantastic. Yeah, it was really good that so many people were able to see that solar eclipse and to be able to film it like that. Yep, it's pretty normal to be banned from the fearmonger channels that don't want people knowing the truth about what they're showing. So that just is par for the course. If I had $1 for every YouTube channel that I've been banned from or had my comments deleted, I'd be a wealthy man now, I think. Are there any other comments or questions that people have? Haven't seen Mr. Curious Unknown in the chat at all today, so that's a shame. So I'm going to wind this hangout up soon. Hangout. I'm going to wind this hangout up soon. But if there are any questions or comments that people want to make. Yeah, who isn't banned from Scott's channel? Only the people that suck up to him aren't banned, you know, so. Okay, Jordan asks a good question. What are your opinions on the arguments from flat earthers regarding perspective? Would the sun and moon rise and set on a flat earth? Well, actually, I've done some videos on this, so if you want to check out my playlists, you'll find some videos. In fact, I think the video that I've still got posted as the feature video on my channel is about how sunrises and sunsets are actually impossible according to the flat earth model. Because if the flat earth was a flat disk 25,000 miles across as they claim, and if the sun or the moon were 3,000 miles above the earth as they claim, then simple geometry shows you that the sun or the moon could never be below several degrees above the horizon. You know, all they need to do is take a sheet of paper and draw a little scale diagram for themselves. And I've actually done this in my video. And you can see that the simple geometry means that the sun would never set. It would always be several degrees above the horizon. So check out my flat earth videos. I do have a number of playlists on my channel to try and make it easier to find the different videos. So Groot says that he's not answering his calls or texts, which is odd. Well, I don't know, maybe he's hiding. And normally about this time of the day, I think he's usually out there getting ready to film the sunset, isn't he? So I'm just checking his channel again. And he's not live at the moment. Mr. Curious Unknown, please do the right thing and re-upload or refilm your porch light video filmed in darkness like you did the first one, not like you filmed last night when you did your little response video. But let's see that again, and maybe you could do the finger test while you're doing that as well. And you know, let's try and do the right thing here, Mr. Curious Unknown, and we can all be friends, and you know, everything's good, and we can all get on, and hey, no drama. Anybody that knows me well knows that I don't hold grudges, especially when I believe a person has been sincere. So, you know, if you want to meet me halfway. Good night, Dick. Thank you for joining the chat. Sleep well, and we'll see you next time. Well, it's about lunchtime for me now, and my tummy's starting to rumble, so I think I'm going to go and get some lunch. Got to go and feed the worms. Oh, gosh, feels like thunder in my tummy. Oh. Talk about strange sounds. Maybe I should make a video about strange sounds heard around the earth. Daz's tummy rumbling at lunchtime. Yeah. Yep, get along with no drama and unite against fear porn for money. Exactly. I am Groot. And, you know, as I say, Mr. Curious Unknown, if you want to keep preaching the gospel, go for it. I have no problem with that. So I'm going to wind this up now. Thank you, everyone, for joining me once again. Thank you for everybody participating in the chat, and we'll see you next time. This is Dazza the Cameraman. Good night.